Hello everyone, my name is Clantus and welcome to the Iron Bars, my true crime YouTube channel. So without further ado, let's get into today's story, and this one, it gripped South Africans for weeks. From the moment the story broke to the last moment on the 22nd of October 2021 when it ended at the High Court in Mpumalanga here in Gauteng. So a quick disclaimer, guys, every information that I got about this case, including the perpetrator herself, it's information that I found on the internet. I tried to dig a little bit deeper about where she comes from, how she was brought up, what led her to commit all these crimes to this point. Well, we do know what led her to commit the crimes that she had committed. However, her background is very sketchy. Even the media itself seemingly did not focus on her entire biography. They were only interested about the crimes that she had committed. However, there are some few tiny information here and there about her background, which I am going to tell you about them. So one of the things that I could not find is her birth date. However, I did find that she was born in 1975. By now, you guys know that I like to know the perpetrator's zodiac sign for interest's sake. So if you do know some information about the perpetrator, please do comment down below and fill in the blanks where I may have omitted or overgiven information that may have been misleading information. Like I said, guys, her background story is a mess on the internet. So there's no straight biography of this person. So today's case is the serial life insurance murderer Nomia Rosemary Ndlovu. Like I said, Nomia Rosemary Ndlovu was born in 1975 in a small village called New Forest in Bushbuckridge, Mpumalanga Province in South Africa. Unfortunately, I could not find her full birth date and her zodiac sign, so we move on. So Rosemary Ndlovu had two younger sisters. She was the eldest and she had two younger sisters by the names of Audrey as well as Nomasonto Ndlovu. Nomasonto Ndlovu had 5 children, while Audrey, we only know that she had one child, a boy. So Rosemary Ndlovu and her family grew up in abject poverty. Sometimes her mother would not know what to put on the table in order for her children to go to bed on full stomachs. She would do some work in farms around Bushbuckridge in order to take care of her family. Sometimes they would go to bed hungry. However, Rosemary's mother, she believed in education and she made sure that all of her children did go to school. Unfortunately, I could not find what level of education did Rosemary receive. However, in South Africa, in order for you to become a police officer, you need to have a senior certificate. Here in South Africa, we call it a matric certificate. So assumingly, Rosemary Ndlovu, when she completed her senior year, she went and enrolled herself at the South African Police Service Academy. Rosemary Ndlovu did graduate as a constable at the South African Police Service, officially making her a police officer. Instantly, Rosemary Ndlovu became the star member of the family because she was the one who was going to break the cycle of poverty in her family. In 2014, the south of Tembisa in the East Rand of Gauteng opened a new police station, and in that police station there were new recruits, and one of the recruits happened to be Rosemary Ndlovu, who became a constable in that police station. Now, a police constable in South Africa is the lowest police rank in the police force, I suppose. Rosemary Ndlovu's colleagues said that she was a very nice lady. She would take her colleagues to free lunches, expensive lunches, and she would drove very expensive vehicles. And she basically, people were wondering, where does she get all this money from to live the type of lifestyle that she was living, considering how low the police salary is, especially for constable, which started at 7,088 Rand a month to about 15,000 Rand, provided that the police officer or the constable worked public holidays holidays, worked a night shift, as well as worked overtime. So if you did not work overtime or night shift or on public holidays, you will remain with a salary of 7,088 rand. Which is very sad to think about, that the police in this country, the reason why they are this corrupt is because of the salary they take home at the end of the month. South Africa is a very dangerous country, and for 7,088 rand a month, now you begin to think like, maybe this is the reason why they are this corrupt, because our South African police services are extremely corrupt. They're probably the most corrupt police force in the world. So I'm not excusing them why they committed these crimes, but it's still a noble job. And a noble job usually to me is it's a call. It's a call to serve and protect people. And you would not care about how much you earn, especially when you know this is a calling. So I was like, wow, I didn't know this. I did not know this until I started doing research with this case. But that is besides the point. Now, Rosemary Ndlovu, her colleagues would wonder, where in the world does she get all this money, and why is she even a police officer if she has all this money? So one of the police colleague of hers said no, she goes to Emperor's Palace casinos and play machines. The reason why she knew this is because Rosemary would also take her to the Empress Palace where they will gamble on slot machines. Sometimes Rosemary would actually win large sums of money. And so that is how she was getting her money. And so all the other police officers were like, oh, okay, it makes sense now. At first, some even suspected her of being corrupt, but after the story of Empress Palace casinos that she was running to and winning, then it kind of like died down and people started trusting her again. I'm talking about her colleagues here. Rosemary had moved to Tembisa to be closer to work, which is where she basically settled in since 2014. So Rosemary Ndlovu then proceeded to be a police officer, and she was arresting all the bad people. And it so happened that while she was arresting some people, illegal possession of a firearm, she kind of struck an idea, and we'll get to the idea. So between 2012 and 2018, some members of Rosemary Ndlovu started dying. Immediately a family member dies, Rosemary Ndlovu will go and collect a lump sum of money from insurance companies in South Africa. Not only that, her family members were dropping like flies, her own boyfriend was a victim of these crimes. Between 2012 and 2018, Nomia Rosemary Ndlovu had collected or cashed out little over 1.4 million rand. In other reports, they say it was 1.5 million rand. From life insurance that she claimed immediately a family member dies or her own boyfriend. So this is how the killing spree started. In 2012, Rosemary Ndlovu's cousin brother, Witness Madala, was coming back from work when a group of men started attacking him. He sustained serious head injuries. His body was found dumped in a veld in Johannesburg. And in less than a month, Rosemary Ndlovu had collected over 131,000 rand in life insurance after Witness Madala's death. The family said while they were busy arranging funerals for Witness Madala, Rosemary Ndlovu did not even contribute a dime towards the funeral of Witness. They said that they struggled to put together money to bury Witness Madala. However, they did manage to go and get credit and borrow money from other people, which became a problem after his funeral, people demanding back their money. Rosemary Ndlovu contributed nothing out of that 131,000 rand that she claimed in Witness Madala's name. So basically, Rosemary Ndlovu watched her family struggle to bury their child. In June 2013, Rosemary Ndlovu's younger sister, Audrey Ndlovu, was found dead in her rented room in Tembisa. She was poisoned. It is said that Rosemary Ndlovu had visited her younger sister and she gave her younger sister a drink that was spiked with poison. She left, and when she came back, she realized that her sister was still alive. So she proceeded to strangle her to death. However, the autopsy found that she was poisoned. And this is the part where it shows that Rosemary is a psychopath. What she did was, while Audrey's body was lying cold in her rented room, Rosemary decided to call the insurance company and pretended to be her younger sister, Audrey, and listed herself as the beneficiary of a life insurance should Audrey die. Upon hearing of Audrey's death, the insurance company did pay out over 717,000 Rand in life insurance. That is 717,000 Rand that Rosemary Ndlovu got upon her sister's death. In October 2015, Rosemary Ndlovu's boyfriend, Maurice Mabasa, is found dead near the Olifantsfontein police station. He sustained over 80 stab wounds to his body. His valuables were not taken, that is his wallet, his cell phone, as well as some other valuables on his body. It is said that Rosemary Ndlovu had taken several life insurance policies and other policies on Maurice Mabasa's name. So Rosemary Ndlovu had hired a man who posed as Maurice Mabasa when opened the life insurance, and she pretended to be the spouse of Maurice Mabasa on the life insurance and listed herself as a beneficiary should Maurice Mabasa die. So every month, Rosemary Ndlovu would pay the premiums to all the policies that she had on Maurice Mabasa. And when she heard that Maurice Mabasa was found dead near the police station in Tembisa, she went and claimed little over 416,000 Rand in life insurance after Maurice Mabasa was dead. For Maurice Mabasa's funeral, Rosemary Ndlovu only contributed 40,000 Rand towards his funeral. The family was quite surprised because they know Rosemary Ndlovu to be a loving girlfriend of Maurice. They even have a baby girl together. So they thought that she was going to contribute far more than what she did. Considering the fact that the Mabasa family knew Rosemary to have a lot of money. So they were quite surprised that she only contributed 40,000 Rand. In South Africa, 40,000 Rand for a funeral is not enough. A funeral in South Africa is not just a funeral, but it is an event that you need to spend a lot of money for, and that includes food and drinks, but more drinks, especially for the after tears. So after tears is when we have laid the person to rest, we come back to the house, and then a tiny or a mini party in their honor takes place where people basically do things that he or she used to like. They talk about him or her, and they will play her favorite music and things of that nature. It's what we call after tears. Usually it's a party, like I said, and you need money for that. I don't know where it came from, and I don't know why it's there, because it's just a waste of money as far as I'm concerned. But hey, each their own, right? However, the 40,000 Rand could not even buy Maurice a decent coffin. But Rosemary Ndlovu decided, you know what? This is all I can give you guys. Rosemary Ndlovu folded her arms and watched the Mabasa family try to put together money to bury the father of her child. In June 2016, Rosemary Ndlovu's niece, Zanele Mote, is attacked in Kempton Park. Zanele Mote was going to visit Rosemary at the time of her death. Out of Zanele Mote's death, Rosemary Ndlovu claimed a little over 120,000 Rand in life insurance. As per usual, Rosemary Ndlovu folded her arms and watched her family struggle to bury Zanele Mote. Mind you, the family knows that Rosemary does have money. She could carry the entire funeral by herself, but no, Rosemary decided to fold her arms and watch her family basically running around borrowing money to buy a coffin and have a funeral and to bury Zanele Mote. She was just heartless, and her own family members could not understand why she was doing this. In 2017, Rosemary Ndlovu's nephew Mayeni dies. He was on his way coming to visit his aunt Rosemary Ndlovu in Tembisa. Mayeni's body was found dumped in Olifantsfontein. I don't know how to pronounce that name. He has sustained severe head injuries. And the interesting part about his death, his cell phone records does pinpoint the exact location as Rosemary Ndlovu on the day of his death. Unfortunately, I could not find how much exactly did Rosemary Ndlovu get from life insurance for Mayeni's death. In January 2018, Brilliant Mashego, this is Audrey's son. Remember Audrey, Rosemary's younger sister that died a few years ago? Yup. This is his son. He finds out that Rosemary Ndlovu had gotten paid out for his mother's death through life insurance. And so he wanted to confront Rosemary, who has been taking care of Brilliant Mashego since the death of his mother. When Rosemary found out that Mashego now knows that she received money from her mother's death, so she invited Mashego to her house in Tembisa. Unfortunately, Mashego did not make it to Tembisa that day because he was found dead and his body dumped in a veld in Bushbuckridge. I personally don't think that she killed Brilliant Mashego for insurance money, but she was just silencing him, having stolen life insurance payout that she got after his mother's death. So she needed to eliminate him. Number one, to make sure that he doesn't talk. Number two, that she doesn't have to share any dime that she's left with Mashego. And this story gets crazier. So around January 2018, a man by the name of Lucky Wemkiza stands at the door of Rosemary Ndlovu's mother's house and looks straight into Rosemary's mother's eyes, and then he asks for a glass of water. Rosemary Ndlovu's mother, like the kind woman that she is, she went and got him a glass of water. The man drank the water and then left. Now, this man had taken 2,000 rand from Rosemary in order for him to kill her mother. Rosemary Ndlovu had taken several life insurance policies and funeral policies on her mother's name, and she listed herself as the sole beneficiary. Fortunately, Lucky Wemkiza, when he arrived at Rosemary's mother's house, all that he could see was a frail old lady who was vulnerable and innocent, and he could not bring himself to killing her, and he just felt bad for her. Instead, he asked for water and left, and he ran away with Rosemary's 2,000 rand. Of course, Rosemary, when she found out that her mother is still alive, she was livid enough to go and find yet another hitman, but this time the hitman was for his sister and her 5 children. As per her modus operandi, Rosemary Ndlovu had taken life insurance on her sister, but not her 5 children, as well as several funeral policies that if her sister should die, she would collect large sums of money after her death. So Rosemary Ndlovu went and hired a man by the name of Njabulo Vincent Kunene. Now, Njabulo Vincent Kunene and Rosemary met when Rosemary was still a police officer. She had arrested him for illegal possession of a gun, and it also turned out later on that Njabulo actually had a license for the gun, and therefore he was let free. However, Rosemary remembered him and went to his house and asked if he could do her a favor. She was going to pay him 15,000 rand for the job to kill her sister and her 5 children. Njabulo Vincent Kunene asked Rosemary how old the children were, and that is when she said the oldest child is 14 years old, the youngest is 5 months old. Upon hearing this, Njabulo Vincent Ndlovu was like, I can never kill a child, let alone a 5-month-old child, because they are innocent and defenseless. So he decided to go to the police and tell them the entire plot. And then the police formulated a sting operation where Njabulo was going to pretend to Rosemary that he gotten an accomplice or accomplices to help him, considering the fact that it is 6 people that needed to die that day. And this is where things get chilly. So on the day when Rosemary Ndlovu's sister and her 5 children were to die, Rosemary Ndlovu went to Midrand and booked herself into a ward where she was admitted for an unknown condition, but she asked for a day pass. At the hospital, the would-be hitmen came and collected her, and they were to drive 5 hours to Bushbuckridge, where Rosemary Ndlovu was going to point out her sister's house to the hitmen. So in the car, it was Rosemary Ndlovu, it was the undercover cop, it was another man, as well as Njabulo Vincent Kunene. And the undercover cop then started asking Nomia Rosemary Ndlovu some questions just to make sure that they understand the assignment. Unsuspecting, Rosemary Ndlovu then gave them the full plan and instructed them how exactly her sister and her 5 children were to die. So the instructions were that when they get there, they must make sure that they don't shoot or stab her sister and her children, because if they did that, the police are going to investigate and connect the dots, and it might lead to her as well as them. But instead, the best way to kill them is to strangle them. After strangle them, then burn down the house. And as a result, when the police come the following day to do the investigations, they are not even going to do DNA tests, because they're going to know who the people that were in the house that burned down. And secondly, the police are not interested in fire cases, but murder cases where a gun or knives are involved. They are going to take an interest in finding the perpetrator, and the insurance will not also pay out immediately, because the insurance will also do its own investigation, which might result in her never getting the money. However, if it's a strangulation and then burn them after, then it's not going to investigate, and there will be basically no investigations that will take place. As a police officer herself, I think she knows the procedures, and she knows what cases that get investigated and what cases that do not get investigated. She even went as far as sharing more information, which was besides the instructions that she was giving them to killing her sister and her children. She basically said that she has stolen guns before at the Tembisa police station, because it's easy for a police person to steal a gun in the evidence room. All you do is get the key, and then you take whatever gun and sell it to criminals. Which now I was like, okay, now I understand why there are so many guns in South Africa, illegal guns that kill people, and nobody can trace who the killers are, because the guns are unknown. They file off the serial number, and as a result, and the case goes cold for decades on end. So as they drive down to Bushbuckridge, the undercover cop asked Rosemary where exactly we are going again. He just wanted to make sure that he captured everything that she would say in a recording device that he had, and that she was not aware of, that she's being recorded by the undercover cop. She told them we are going to Bushbuckridge, and she asked the undercover cop that she didn't know that was an undercover cop, have you ever been to Bushbuckridge? To which the undercover cop said, no, I've never been to Bushbuckridge before. And she said, okay, today you are going to go there. So they drive to Bushbuckridge, and just before they arrive in Bushbuckridge, they stop at the gas station where they buy 2-liter petrol or gas, whichever way you call it in your country. This 2-liter gas was going to be used to burn down the house immediately after the sister and her 5 children had been killed. Shortly after they bought the 2-liter petrol, then Rosemary pointed out her sister's house to the hitman and said, that is where she lives. At 9 p.m. that evening, you should carry out the deed. Because she goes to bed by 9 o'clock, my sister allows her sleep, she tells the hitman. She further tells the hitman that her death was going to be blamed on a boyfriend or on a neighbor or on a candle or on a faulty electrical connection or on something. That is why the police are not necessarily going to take an interest in fire case. So the undercover cop once again asked Rosemary if the children were covered by life insurance, and Rosemary said no, they are not, but they need to die also because she does not want any witnesses left behind. And I'm like, how is a 5-month-old would be a witness to a death of their mother murdered by her aunt? I don't know. I just think that she wanted the children dead so that they would not be a burden to her after her sister has died. I think that is the whole reason why they also needed to die, to some sort of like dispose of them too, because I don't want to be responsible for them once the mother has died type of thing. So the undercover cop once again asked for clarity. You said we should burn everything inside the house, and Rosemary said yes, everything, including the 5-month-old child. So Rosemary's sister told the news channels that the day she was supposed to die, she did receive a call earlier in the morning where Rosemary had called her to ask her a very strange question. And the question was, how close are you to your neighbors? She particularly wanted to know about a certain neighbor that used to work night duties only. And so she wanted to know if he still works night duty. Then the sister told Rosemary that no, he no longer works night duties only, but he works from 8 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. And then she asked another question which she found very strange, was if anything had to happen to you, do you think that your neighbors are going to help you? And the sister told her that yes, they would help me because we are close and we do talk to each other, we like each other, we don't have problems with each other, so yeah, they would definitely help me. And then she proceeded to ask, if your house burnt down, would they come and extinguish the fire? She said yes, not only extinguish the fire but also call the fire department to come and rescue us. And so that is when her sister, which is Rosemary, then hung up the phone. She said that she felt like these were strange questions, but later on in the day, she was surprised to see her sister and vans of police at her yard. And then the police asked her, do you know this woman? And she said, yes, that is my sister. After she had identified her sister, the police then led Rosemary to a police van and basically locked her in there. And then they proceeded to tell Rosemary's sister, Nomia Sondo, that your sister actually had planned for your death at 9 p.m. tonight together with your children. So she was shocked to hear this. She was like, there is no way that my own older sister would want to do something like this to me. And that's when the police told her that actually you would not be the first family member that she would have killed. Audrey, your younger sister, was murdered by Rosemary, and that's when things started coming together. The sister said, I cannot understand why my sister, who lived a very lavish lifestyle, would want to kill her, a person that does not have anything. She knows that I am poor, I'm living in abject poverty, I work in other people's farms to earn very minimal amount of money in order to take care of my children. Why would she want to kill me? I have nothing. She shows the journalist her house, that this house was built for me by the government. It only has 2 bedrooms and a kitchen. That is about it. I've got no food. I've got nothing. Why would my sister want to kill me? She was asking with tears rolling down her face. It's just a sad interview when you watch it. So Rosemary, before she was arrested, after she pointed out her sister's house, she then asked the hitman to drive her to the taxi rank where she was going to take a taxi back to Johannesburg and rush back to the Midrand hospital where she had booked herself in, so that at 9 o'clock when her sister gets killed with her children, she has the hospital as her alibi so that her death is not pointed to her. And then quickly after she hears of her death, then she is going to get herself discharged and then run to Bushbuckridge to prepare for her sister's funeral. And then she further tells the hitman that actually once her sister dies, she will then go and claim life insurance and funeral policies that are going to pay out large sums of money, and that is how she's going to pay the hitman. One of the hitmen, I think it was the undercover cop, was like, yo, so you mean by Friday we are going to be nice, we're going to eat nice, meaning we would have been paid our money and we'll be happy and we'll go our separate ways. And then Rosemary Ndlovu was like, yes, you will be very nice after I have paid you. And then they drove her to the taxi rank. Just before she boarded the taxi, there were other police that were waiting, because remember, it's a sting operation, arrested her and charged her with the attempted murder of her sister Nomia Ndlovu, together with her 5 children. And then she was extradited to Johannesburg. Rosemary Ndlovu was kept at the Johannesburg prison, aka Sun City, where from March 2018 all the way up until her case ended, she was staying at that prison. She did try to apply for bail application. Unfortunately, her bail application was denied because the court felt that she was a flight risk due to the fact that she has multiple addresses. So at this point, South Africa hears of this news and the jaws of South Africans were on the floor. We're like, what? Was because we have never heard of life insurance murders before. The majority of South Africans live in poverty. Nobody has life insurance or paying premiums towards life insurance for family members. People now started doubting their own family members who have put them on the life insurance plan and funeral plans, like, wait a minute, are you going to do this to me? I remember everybody was just on the edge. They basically for a moment stopped trusting their loved ones because of this case. But of course, everybody snapped out of it and continued being grabbed by this case. And we were following it from the beginning to the end. So one of the things that we also witnessed, which got Rosemary Ndlovu one of the most famous persons in South Africa, was because of her behavior in court. She was literally behaving like a child. She was also behaving erratically. She was also behaving in ways that was just weird. And she was making a lot of interesting memes on social media and people loved it. She had social media platforms. I think she had Twitter as well as Facebook. From having just less than 1,000 followers, she was now having tens of thousands of followers on her social media platforms because people found her interesting. At some point, she would throw food at journalists. She would fight with journalists. She would threaten journalists with violence right inside the courtroom, showing total disrespect, showing total lack of humanity and remorse for the crimes that she has committed. And South Africans were like, wow, she was just being a clown that was so entertaining. I remember I also been in several conversations with people at work as well as with my own family, and every time Rosemary Ndlovu's name popped, everybody would just laugh because they found her extremely hilarious. She was funny, but she was accused of serious crimes. However, South Africans were still shell-shocked by the whole thing that she has done to her own family as well as the father of her child. So South Africans, thereafter, they duped her as the killer cop. She's known today as the killer cop. So you can imagine that all the trending stories, Rosemary Ndlovu was the #1 trending story for weeks on end. During Rosemary's trial, all the family members that were affected by her actions did take the stand, and they were breaking down, explaining exactly what she had put them through. The saddest ones was Maurice Mabasa's family, who told the court that Maurice was the breadwinner of the house. Since his death, the family lives in abject poverty. They sometimes go to bed hungry. They believe that Maurice, if he was still alive, things would be better at home, especially with their mother, whom he used to take care of. So it was just so sad to listen to all those testimonies. While people were testifying about the remnants of what Rosemary did, she was blasé. She was oblivious, as if she was nonchalant. She was just behaving like, so what? That type of behavior she was having in court. While victim impact statements were being made on the stand, she couldn't care less. The biggest shocker came when Rosemary's mother took the stand in her defense and told the court that she does not believe a word that her daughter is responsible for the death of her own sister Audrey Ndlovu and her son. And also she does not believe that Rosemary tried to have her killed, even though she does remember the man that she gave a glass of water to at some point. So she just defended her daughter and said there is no way that Rosemary is responsible of all this she's accused of, and she stood by her daughter. That is when Rosemary for the first time showed any sort of emotions. She broke down and cried while her mother was defending her on the stand. I get it, you're a mother. No mother wants to believe that their daughter is a serial killer. Like, come on. But unfortunately for her, her daughter was a murderer. So on the 22nd of October 2021, this entire drama comes to an end when Rosemary Ndlovu is found guilty by the Palm Ridge High Court for murder of 6 people, an attempted murder of her mother, and 6 counts of incitement to commit murder. She was also found guilty of frauding, Clientele Limited, Asupol, One Life, as well as Old Mutual. These are insurance companies in South Africa. She was also found guilty of defeating the ends of justice. In early November, mitigation and aggravation of sentence hearing was heard at the High Court sitting in Palm Ridge, where Rosemary Ndlovu took to the stand, and for the second time, she showed some humanity, but you can tell that she was acting. So this is the list of her sentences. For murdering her boyfriend Maurice Mabasa, Rosemary Ndlovu is sentenced to life. For the murder of her sister Audrey, she's sentenced to life. For the murder of Audrey's son, Brilliant Mashego, she's sentenced to life. For the murder of her niece, Zanele Mote, she is sentenced to life. So all in all, she received 6 life sentences of each of the people that she murdered. She further received an additional 5 years for defeating the ends of justice, 10 years for each count of fraud, 10 years for incitement to commit murder, and 10 years for attempted murder of her own mother. Oh, I forgot to mention Mayeni Mashaba, who is part of the 6 people that she had murdered. She got life sentence for his murder as well. So like I said, at the mitigation and aggravation of sentence, she did ask the court to have mercy on her. And she also apologized to all the family that she had affected by murdering their family members. And also she seemed to be more emotional whenever she talked about Maurice Mabasa, who was the father of a child and a boyfriend, more than she did with her own family members that she had murdered. And the funny part, the family members say they are a close-knit family. There's never been problems amongst each other. There was never a time where they would not talk to each other, so they did not understand why she felt so detached from the family members that she had murdered, and why she was not actually showing more emotions for their death over that of her boyfriend. So a well-renowned criminologist took to the stand during sentencing and actually asked the court to declare Rosemary Ndlovu as a serial killer, because she does show all the signs of being a serial killer. And she further recommended to the court that Rosemary Ndlovu, because she is a psychopath, she has a personality disorder, and that she will kill again should she ever be released from prison in the future. And then she further recommended that Rosemary Ndlovu should take up programs that deal with violent crimes, as well as get psychotherapy while in prison, so that she can begin her rehabilitation program in prison. But she doubted that Rosemary Ndlovu would be a contributing member of society if she ever got out of prison, and she asked the judge to keep Rosemary Ndlovu behind bars till the day she dies. So during her sentencing, the judge described Rosemary Ndlovu as a cruel auntie who took an oath to serve and protect. After her sentence, Rosemary Ndlovu wasted no time. She applied for leave to appeal her sentence. Unfortunately for her, the judge dismissed her application and told her that no any other court in South Africa will come to a different conclusion, and she was whisked away to start serving her 6 life sentences and 40 years for all the other crimes that she committed in the 6 years that she was busy on a killing spree for life insurance money. One of the things that the judge wanted to know from Rosemary was, what is it that she's got to show for the 1.4 million rand that she had received over the 6 years. Rosemary, of course, being blasé, oblivious, and disrespectful towards the court, she did not answer. The reason why she wanted to have her sister and her children killed, particularly her sister, because she already taken life insurance on her, was because the 1.4 million rand had dried out and her car was almost getting repossessed by the bank at the time when she wanted her sister killed. So I think the judge was asking a relevant question, because I also want to know, 1.4 million rand in 6 years, you just blow it up like that? Then I remembered her colleagues saying she would take them to expensive lunches, she would borrow them money as well, and she would not expect it back. And she was just living a flashy lifestyle, basically. Oh, by the way, Rosemary Ndlovu, she also going to be facing a case of attempted murder as well as incitement, because she had arranged for the murder of the prosecutor as well as the investigating officer. So she was unhappy that she was caught. She was also unhappy that she was getting prosecuted for the murders that she had committed against her relatives as well as her boyfriend. So we are still going to see her attending that trial in the near future. So I will definitely be following that trial, and I will definitely make a video just to give you an update on where she is and what had happened to her as a result of her stupidity. At the end of the day, all family members and everybody affected by Rosemary's actions were very happy with the sentences that she received, even though they felt that their family members are not going to come back, but at least justice was served and they were satisfied. South Africans as well were happy with the sentences. They felt that she deserved what she got. Well, that is it, guys, with the serial life insurance murder trial or case of Nomia Rosemary Ndlovu. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and also consider subscribing if you have not subscribed yet. This channel, I talk all things true crime. Don't forget to click the bell notification so you will not miss out on any of my new true crime videos. Make sure to leave me a comment down below and let me know what did you think of Nomia Rosemary Ndlovu and why she was killing like the way she was killing her own family members. Psycho, right? Anyways, I will see you next time with a new video. Goodbye.